everyone, welcome! I am Valerie Berrios Reyes. I'll be your host today for the ZBrush sculpting demonstration at Full Sail University. I hope you guys are doing well and having a good day. My name, like I said, is Valerie. I have been in Full Sail for around 6 years plus. I started as a lab specialist, recently got into the course associate course director, and I have always loved modeling. When I found ZBrush, it was the love of my life, and I've been enjoying that for the past couple of years. I specialize mostly in stylized character creation because it's my passion. Here are some of my past creations. Like I said, a little bit more stylized. I like a lot of creatures and different animal kind of genre. I can skip that. So, for today, I was really excited when Full Sail announced the theme of The Last of Us. I have seen the movies, I have played the games, and it has been a trail and it's such a beautiful kind of world that they've created. So I was very excited for the theme today. These here are some of the inspirations that I kind of wanted to approach. I was gonna definitely do a clicker, but I remember in the series, and if you haven't watched the series or played the games, I totally recommend it. It's a very, like I said, well created everything. So what you want to make sure is that you watch the episode, which is where I got the inspiration from, where they had a clicker kid. It was the most scariest, exciting for me out of all the episodes, and that's where I got my inspiration to do today's clicker. I didn't want to do just a clicker. I wanted to do a little bit more of the kid clicker because I kind of wanted you guys to see how to make a kid and also implement the clicker into that kid. So I think it was really exciting. A lot of these inspirations come from the game and other artists that I kind of studied to see how they approach making a lot of the clicker characteristics. If you guys don't know what a clicker is, it is around the third, fourth stage of the cordyceps infection. There you go, infection. So, like I said, if you haven't watched the series, play the games, would totally recommend. A lot of these inspirations are very, I would say, from the clicker itself, from the kid. I couldn't find a lot of stills from the kid. So it's going to be a lot of references from a lot of places that I kind of compiled together to kind of create what I want to have at the end. Hopefully it's gonna be really good. I will go over it quite fast on the kids side as the allotted time we have. I want to concentrate a little bit more on the clicker side and how to kind of construct that a little bit simple shapes. Remember that if you guys have any questions on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, send them through those respective areas, and I will be looking at them and seeing what interesting questions you have for today. So let's start heading out to ZBrush. Also, I do want to thank the social team for having me today again for the third year. So it's always exciting. You guys always do a great job. So thank you very much for that. So heading out to ZBrush, we have here a very basic setup that I always have for myself. So on the left side, I always have my dandy, really nice program. It's called PureRef. If you guys haven't used it, it's really useful for putting just references from the internet here. You can also add notes like you see around certain areas that I have, where I kind of place everything very neatly for myself. Inspirations, any tips that I might want to add to the sculpt, any extra things that I might want to in the future kind of be aware of. For this sculpt, what I wanted, like I said, inspiration of the kid. I couldn't find a lot of stills from the movie itself, but I found the actress, which amazing actress. She's a contortionist in real life, and it was amazing what she did on the series. So here on the left side, we have the mushroom effect that I kind of gather a couple from different areas, how other artists approach that, and what I would like to put in my sculpt. It doesn't have to be a one-on-one, it's just inspiration for the overall feel of that mushroomy feel. This one was amazing. There's a few things that I kind of want to add for that. I went to Pinterest also, just letting you guys know. I gathered some of these from Pinterest, very helpful site. And I like this one of the kid, which is what inspired me to go back to the kid on the series. A lot of these are busts, sculpts from how I would like my kit to look. I want it to be a little bit more cutesy side, but then we apply the clicker side and it kind of combines it into a creepy side, which I would love that for my sculpt. And that's why I kind of put these here to have an inspiration of those. Here are the ones from the stills that I could find in the series. Boom, boom, boom. Great episode. And here, and I would recommend you guys do this in the future for your own sculpts. Make sure that if you like any type of lighting on any sculpt, you want to always make sure to always have it on the side from your reference, because that will kind of give you the essence or the inspiration to kind of do your lighting at the end for whatever sculpt you're doing. So I loved a lot of this one here, where it kind of has different color compositions, a lot of overall pop of color, while still maintaining the gory, creepy of the sculpt. And I love that one. So I was like, I'm kind of going towards more of that lighting, and even found this one right here. So let me see what we have around. Oh, yes. So here I kind of made some notes of what the clicker characteristics might be. And these are characteristics that are overall pronounced in a clicker. So when you kind of create them in a sculpt, that's what's gonna give you the, hey, this is a clicker feel, or the overall feeling. And I would say that's very, very, it applies to everything. If you want to make a kid feel like a kid, hey, you enlarge the eyes, tinier nose, tinier mouth, bigger head. So make sure that whenever you're doing any kind of sculpting, you want to make sure you get the characteristics or the feel of your reference and try to then sculpt that in your sculpt, and that will give you way better results on that. Or at least I've tried it a couple times. It has worked for me, so totally recommend. So I would say definitely references when you are doing a sculpt. It doesn't have to be 200, it doesn't have to be 10 or 5. I would say the ones that are helping you are the ones that you should have. Most of the time you want to have a front, side, 3/4 view of whatever you're doing. And if you're adding anything to your sculpt, let's say you're gonna add horns and you want to be like, what type of horns? And then you get the reference and then you apply that to your own sculpt. That's gonna get you a better result, less gaps, and it's gonna look even more realistic or to the point, representing what the object is. So let's pull this on the side, and most of the time what I do is I want to start, like I said, with the kid. So we have some pictures. She is a very famous kid, so definitely She has some pictures there. So what we want to do is, first things first. And this is my process, but I totally recommend it to you. So what you want to do is pull this on the side. Let me pull this over here. I personally like to work with base meshes. It saves me time on shaping things a lot faster. But recommendation for this: if you are definitely just starting to do ZBrushing or any type of sculpting, I would recommend you always start from either a sphere or very, very simple, and then you pull out those shapes. Why? Because you're just starting. You're just starting in the beginning of your art career, and you want to make sure you know how to do things before you kind of cut corners on things. I kind of have done plenty of busts, and I've done plenty of ears, and etc, etc. So I kind of already have I would say a collection of busts that I'm like, okay, I'm going to start from here to do this, and I want to start this to do that. And I can cut those corners because I've done them plenty of times. I know how to do them, and for now it just makes my life easier to kind of have that. So just be aware that when you're starting, make sure you always do everything. Your base from a sphere, whatever shape you want to start it from, pull things out, create them from the beginning. And then in the future, you're already going to have a collection, and that collection you can just pull from. So just a tip on that, because that way you know how to do an ear instead of just applying a random ear from the internet. So first things first, like I said, I'm going to start with a basic shape. What I did with this is I went over here to the light box. I like a lot of the head planes, so I double clicked that. I selected the female head plane, apply it to the scene, smooth some things out. I'm still gonna scale some things because I feel like the child's face is not there yet, but we can definitely use those in there. I don't need the planes for it, so I kind of just smooth everything out. I just need the overall shape. So let me pull this over here on the side. Yes, FYI, if you see some teeth here, we're going to talk about these later. But for now, let's just do on the face. If you guys want to start sculpting with us, or with me, definitely do it while we're doing this so you can learn some stuff. And if you have any questions, you can ask them throughout the stream. So we have a question already. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the question. What do you think of ZBrush coming to iPad? Oh my God. I saw that. I saw that during the ZBrush Summit. I was so excited. I cannot tell you because I have an iPad right here and I'm always in it. I'm procreating, or, you know, I use it for other stuff, but I am so excited. I am so excited. I hope it works really well. I'm still trying to figure out how it will work because ZBrush takes a little bit of power. So we'll see. I'm excited. I know I have tried a couple of other sculpting software in the iPad. I think Forger is one of them. It was cool. It was a little bit of trying to figure it out, but I'm excited. So thank you for that question because you reminded me of it again and I'm excited again. So let's hope it's good. Woof, they got this. So let's start with this. Like I said, if you want to sculpt, make sure that you can follow. So the first thing that I'm gonna do, I'm going to press BCB, which is my dandy brush over here on the left side top, right here. It's the clay buildup. It's one of my favorite ones. I am going to adjust the focal point, which is the area effects, and let's start on it. I am going to really quickly start placing the eyes, start placing the shape of the nose and the shape of the mouth, and then we're gonna adjust the head because I kind of want to see how everything kind of looks with that. So first things first, BCB, which is the clay buildup, and then we're gonna start, and I'm gonna get this a little bit closer because I don't want to, there you go. This is not a perfect front view. I would suggest you find the best angles that you can. This is the best one that I could find as a front. But again, I've been doing this for a while, so I kind of have some areas that I can fill up with the knowledge that I've practiced for so long. But if you're just starting to do this, make sure you have the best and the most information that you can. And we're gonna move that later. But this is just pressing on shape where everything is, well, that's maybe a little bit too big. Like I said, it doesn't have to just at all, doesn't have to be perfect. This is just placement and starting to get the shape, the primary forms of your mesh. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I would say don't try to make it perfect because it will take you way longer to get the shapes. So just push and pull a few things. And if it helps you, make sure you always have also planes of the face reference for yourself. I kind of want to do that a little bit. So I'm going to put the eyes in there, and I'm going to soften a lot. She's still a kid, so it has a lot of soft features. But you want to make sure you create the features first, and then you soften them, because if not, it's not going to look as it should. And then the eyes are going to be like around there, I would say. For a kid, we want to have a cute, almost button nose. Not too big, and make sure you just sculpt it in there. Don't be afraid of how it looks yet. It's not going to look that pretty, it's just placement of the areas of what you're seeing. So I do want to have this. Be aware that she is she's smirking slightly there. So also make sure that the references that you find don't have any kind of emotion or anything like that, because that will affect how the face is going to look. Just make sure you keep it very. Oh, yes, let me mention that. I'm gonna make sure that I turn on perspective. That will give me a little bit more of a less flat look on the sculpt, a little bit more of 3D of how your eye would see it. Before all that, you see me sculpting here, something that I did not mention to you guys, just in case. You want to make sure that you have Dynamesh on, and I believe this already has it on. Let me check. We're gonna go to geometry, Dynamesh. Yes, it already has it on. So if you don't have Dynamesh on, you won't have the capability of kind of pushing things and Shift F to see your polygroups and your wireframe. You won't have the capability of clicking and dragging it and holding that shape. So you want to make sure Dynamesh is definitely on for this, because you're just going to be moving things, and it doesn't have to be any type of high resolution. You don't want to go too high too fast. You want to keep it on the low side, get those, and for me right now this is really high, so I'm gonna go like 80. That's better. It doesn't need to be too detailed yet. It just needs to have the areas that I want with what I need. So I'm going to make sure that all this goes a little bit way down. You see how she has a little bit more top of the head than the bottom, so definitely make sure you move that along the way, because if not, it's just gonna look like an adult. Boom. I'm going to start just getting a basic, there you go, basic shape there. I'm gonna head out to the, whoop, not that one, to the best side I could find, and we're gonna do a little bit of that because it's looking a little bit odd from this side. So first things first, I'm going to make sure my forehead is there, and we have that, and she has a little bit more of her cheekbones going down. Make sure if you have any questions to ask them along the way. Oh yeah, her nose is a little bit more inwards than that. And a little bit more to the top. It's just getting the angles and the nice silhouette that we kind of want to work on. Nothing too set in stone yet. I want to, although really fast, I'm going to control, get the lasso, mask, and I'm gonna mask the neck. I always feel like the neck affects a lot of the composition and how it feels in the scene. So I'm definitely gonna make that a little bit smaller. It feels too wrestler for her. So we're gonna make that a little bit smaller and a little bit thinner. And it's fine if we adjust it later to what we need or what we want. It doesn't need to be set right now. I'm gonna make the side of the face because we are noticing this right here, which is the side of the skull. So we want to do a lot of that. This might be a little bit longer, but we'll adjust it. So take again a little bit of clay buildup, kind of just scratch on it to kind of get the nose shape a little bit more shaped. We might need to go a little bit deeper on the eye socket area, but that's going to be adjusted when I start placing the eyes. So I'm going to do a little bit more of the anatomy that I see. I'm gonna round that out, and I'm gonna adjust the jaw. I feel like the jaw feels a little bit too round still. Well, she has a very pronounced jaw, so we're gonna do that. At this point, to be honest, I'm gonna start placing other things in the scene. So it would be the ears and it would be the eyeballs. So, things with the ears. Like I had mentioned before, I have done plenty of ears, and you want to do them at the beginning when you're starting as an artist. But make sure to always practice your ears. That is very, very important. And sometimes when you do sculpts of people are definitely going to see the two things. They're going to check two things: hands and your ears. And they're going to make sure, let me see how this person made the ears. So they're complicated things to do. So you definitely, and they take time, you definitely want to make sure you do those two things really well, because the artist will definitely be looking at those. For this one though, let me go to subtool, and I'm gonna increase the visible count. That will increase how many subtools you see at a time. I like to have this at 10 to 13 so I don't have to keep scrolling down. So if I have like 13 subtools in here, I will be seeing those at one time. So what I want to do for this one, I already have some ears because like I said, they take time, and I have made so many. I have like a collection of ears. So I put some ears in here. Basic ears, they look good. Maybe they don't look like hers, so we will be adjusting those for them to look more like hers. But for now, I will place them there. I like them there. I won't adjust them there. There you go. If you want to know how to switch between your subtools, you can press Alt and then just click on your subtools. You see how this one grays out? That means the ears are on at the moment. So you can just switch between those, and that will make your workflow a little bit faster on that. So we're gonna start just adding, and I don't want her to have any kind of super intense shoulders, so I'm just gonna keep it very simple for this. I might just add a shirt later to kind of make her feel very clicker, but for now, very, very, very simple like that should be good for me. Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna adjust the back of the head. I feel like it's a little bit too low. It should be in an angle with your jaw right here. And I would say less is a little bit better. Again, you kind of want to have a better image of your reference for that. But she has a very round head, so we're trying to get to that point. Let me drink some water here. If you guys have any questions, I'm looking. So we're gonna add the eyes. I'm gonna make sure that these ears are a little bit up to scale because it feels a little bit big. So I'm going to do this little locator here that will relocate your pivots. And I'm actually gonna make sure that I have symmetry on for this before I do that. So that way it relocates the pivot in between the two objects that you have in the scene. So that way, there you go. I'm going to maybe scale them a little bit and then kind of just push them out. There you go. That's better. So you see how now it's separate instead of one thing? That's what we want. She has very tiny ears, slightly angled, and we're gonna make sure we place them a little bit better because we're gonna adjust the jaw line a little bit better, so that's fine. So from here, what we want to do, we want to start putting all our other objects. I'm going to start putting my eyeballs. So to be able to kind of append anything, you want to go to Subtool, Append, and you're gonna choose whatever shape you want to append, but in this case, a sphere for my eyeballs. I keep my spheres very, very simple. I don't tend to do the iris or anything on the sculpt. I kind of just do that after in the process of texturing, or I pre-plan for that, but I kind of personally don't like the look of an iris on the sculpt. And then if you have to move it, let's say you sculpt it and then you have to move it in the texture phase, you're like, oh, I don't like where my iris is. Then you kind of have to go back and adjust it, and you know, I just keep it simple and then do all the adjustments later on the process, because I've seen things and I'm just like, keep it simple, keep it simple. So with the eye, I feel like it's a little bit too big, so I'm going to actually pull this. You always want to make sure you have the eye round. You don't want to adjust any type of shape. That's gonna make your life easier too. You don't want to be like, oh, my eye is, let me take a move tool and be like, my eye is that, you know, unless it's a creature or anything like that. But I mean, like, human wise, you want to keep it simple. That's gonna also help on the retopo process for you. I'm gonna go to the front view, and I have a couple of other views for her, which I like a lot of this one, but this one's really professional done, so I'm gonna actually go for a little bit more of that one. I actually like that one. So we have another question. Should we keep the default resolution? That is actually a good question. I would say the resolution will depend on your model, on your scale and size of your model on the scene. So maybe if your model is really, really large in the scene, the resolution that comes with it might not be good enough for it. So I would say test the resolution per model. I don't have an exact number for each model, if that makes sense. So if you bring a model in and you try the resolution, let's say 80. 80 is not working for you, it's too low, then go a little bit more up. But that way in your mind, you know, hey, 80 is too low, I don't want to go down than 80, keep at 80 or more if you need more. So it's going to be you testing it very, very frequently to see what helps you in the process of what you're doing. Because, for example, if you are doing primary shapes, you always want to make sure you keep it very low so you don't have a lot of detail. If you're doing secondary, you want to maybe increase the resolution to hold the shapes. And if you're doing tertiary, which is mostly not done with Dynamesh, you want to make sure that Let me put the other eye there. Actually, no. You want to make sure that you do tertiary with either subdivision levels, but if you have to do it with Dynamesh, then you can just go way higher on that resolution. But keep in mind, your active points on your poly count will go up. So it just depends on what you need for that specifically point in time. So I'm going to, I always press V. If you see this happening, that means that you press B. So if you press B, you'll see over here on the left side, boop, it turns the mesh into dark color, black color. So if that happens, just either push it to the white, which is the normal color for the sculpt, or just press B again. So from here, I put an eye approximation. I think it might be a little bit higher, but we'll find out. So what I like to do is I put an eye in there. I go over here to my right side. I go to geometry, modify topology, and I mirror and weld. There is a couple of ways that you can mirror things in ZBrush. This is just my personal favorite one. It just does it automatically, and that is great for me. I put the eyes a little bit higher because, as you notice that I did mention before, all this needs to be a little bit more deeper. And we're gonna do all this a little bit better. So I'm gonna get a lot of this mask a little bit more down. This might be a little bit like that, a little flatter from the side, not too much growth on that. And now from here, what I like to do is I start doing the eyelids. So let me pull this down a little bit more. I'm trying to see where her eye is versus, oh, there you go. Awesome, yep. So we're gonna have the same thing where your eye will be in line with your tip of the ear. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start with a Damien standard, which is BDS on the keyboard, the hotkey. And I'm just going to go at it and just create an eyelid. Remember that it's just to get the shape in there. I'm gonna do the same thing at the bottom, but I'm going to just go over the eye. Doesn't really matter. We're gonna move it around a little bit. Make sure that the shape is not too into the face. You want to have an almond shape. And that means that my eye might be a little bit too out. So just adjust it accordingly to what you see. At this point is when I kind of go a little bit higher in the resolution because I don't like doing the eyelids and my eyelids breaking and etc, and kind of doing that over and over again. So I kind of go over here into Dynamesh and I eyeball it and I'm like, let me try 136. You can do specific numbers. I just click and drag. So when you are going to Dynamesh and you change the resolution and it doesn't work when you click and drag on your canvas, if it doesn't work, then you want to make sure you I like to move, so I slightly move my model and then I Dynamesh again, and that will tell the model to kind of Dynamesh. ZBrush is kind of like telling it to Dynamesh. So from there, what you want to do is just start softening a little bit of the areas because I feel they're a little bit too intense. I'm gonna go a little bit closer and we have another question. Oh, yeah. So the question is, can you talk about the glove you're wearing? Wait, let me see if there you go. And what it does. So this is to keep you from, if you have sweaty hands, or, you know, overall, to be honest, to keep you from having friction with your tablet. So instead of being like, You're just like very soft and very malleable when you do your drawings or your sculpting. I hope that answered the questions. They're really comfy too, so from there we're going to a little bit more of the adjustments of the eyes. Mind you, I won't go into detail for the eyes or any kind of characteristic of the child, just the overall block out, because we're gonna kind of destroy it with the clicker. Clickers don't have eyes, they use echolocation, so that means that most of their eyes, like we have here on my references, you see how they're covered? So we're gonna go really fast on kind of adjusting the shapes that we already have, and then move on to the clicker side, which is exciting. So from here, I'm gonna go back to finishing the overall shape of it. I am going to show a little bit of her nose in the clicker sculpt. I kind of want to still keep certain things in there. So I am going to definitely do that. I'm going to do a smaller nose, gonna get around the area. Things that I see students always do. Make sure, and this is just a tip, make sure that you always get the sides of the nose out of the face. Most of the time what I see students do is they just keep this, and then it looks great on the front, but then when you go to the side, you see all this melting here. You kind of don't want to do that. You want to have the nose in its own shape, breaking that shape, even affecting the face, and it will definitely change the front. So you have to readjust the front. So that's why I always recommend just make sure you have those really pronounced from the beginning, because they don't have to be too deep in your face, depends on the person, but it will change and adjust your nose features. It will change a lot. So another question, so for beginners, would you recommend graphic tablets or display tablets? For beginners, it depends on what you can get your hands on, to be honest. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It's a lot of what's your preference, what are you most comfortable with, what is your money budget, right? So it's a few things that you might want to consider. But I personally, it was at the beginning, it was really hard for me to do tablets like this, because the eye and motor coordination was a little bit difficult. So if it's on that, if you know you have issues like that, then I would say, and I would suggest, start with a tablet without a display, because it's gonna get you a lot of coordination and everything really well done. So we're going to do a simple mouth because we're gonna destroy that later on, and I'm going to definitely do my nostril holes, because also a pet peeve of mine that I noticed students don't do is the nostril holes. Make sure you do this and have them there. So from here, I'm just going to soften some areas, adjust some areas, and it's starting to look like a kid. It could be a little bit more adjusted, but we are going to start in a minute getting into the clicker side. I want to go over that with you guys and how I would approach it, to be honest. There's many ways to approach things, so it's not like it's my way only. It's just the way that I would find a little bit more comfortable for myself. So always make sure that if you are listening to your instructors and they tell you to do it another way, it's not that way only. There's other different ways to do it. So don't be fighting them or anything, right? Just be like, hey, got your way, let me try it, apply it to your craft. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine, but at least you know a way to kind of do it and kind of approach certain things. You're here to learn, and we're here to help you, and we're happy to, you know. So, boom. We're gonna keep it simple. The ears, I would adjust a little bit. I'm not trying to do a lot of hair on this little girl. I like a lot of the hair that they did. Would be cool to do. A little bit messy. I would still like to have those strands where it's like kind of like you haven't washed your hair in like forever, you know? Does that make sense? So I would like that, and I would totally apply that. And that's why I have this one over here. That's one of the things that I liked. It has like a shorter bob hairstyle, and it has certain hairs coming out of it. So I think I'm actually gonna do that. But we'll see how it goes. So from here, I am going to slightly adjust the head. I feel like the head is a little bit too intense for me right now. I am going to, and I like to do this a lot with my sculpts, I create a line for the mouth area, and you see where I actually have this little dimples at the end right here. Very good touch to have, because that keeps it a little bit more separated, and probably need a little bit more resolution for that. So I'm gonna go up to kind of show you that, like kind of that separation. Also, another thing I see students do is not separating the mouth enough. You want to make sure that your lips feel like they could part from each other, like you can open your mouth. Doesn't mean you have to be doing the mouth open or anything, but something where you have a nice line separating those lips would be nice, because I don't like seeing things like that. It's like, are you good? You know, can you open your mouth? No. So if you want to, always make sure to have a nice line. You can always play with the shape of the lips, and you can always play with the volume of the lips to kind of cover that line and make it a little bit finer. But make sure you always have that line. So I'm gonna make it, actually I think that's a little bit too big of a lips for her. I'm gonna make it a little bit thinner. Maybe the shape is a little bit too, make sure you always go to the side and check your shapes. This shape here is a little bit contradicting. Make sure you do the muscles under your mouth and your chin bone. Yoop. So these are things that it's just basic human anatomy, but you just gotta pull it down a little bit for children. You want to have them a little bit more softer, more rounder, more meaty. I'm gonna go to the side and check how everything's going. I think that the head needs a little bit more adjusting. I'm gonna push this a little bit to the back and a little bit to the front, and then I'm gonna have to readjust the eyes. Do I like that? I don't know. I would go a little bit more deeper on the eye socket. If you have any issues where it's kind of cutting like that, just go a little bit more deeper, and that's fine. I just don't want it to create a super deep where you just see like a bunch of shadow there, because you want to keep them very, very soft in shadows also, and any kind of shadows in their faces. Maybe I like that. That's pretty cool. I hope that question about the beginners helped you. Let me know if you have any other questions with that. That's fine. So I think that's fine for now. It's not gonna look 100% towards her, because it will take a little bit of a time. But at least as a block out, not too bad, I think, right? Not too shabby. So let's see what we are going to do to jump into the clicker side. Let me finish some things. I want to adjust the ears a little bit, and then kind of just give it a little bit more resolution to certain things. Make sure you always go around your model. That's another tip. You don't want to be good only on the front side and then you go to the side and it just looks like really bad, which I've been there, but you know, if you look at it and you see it, you can adjust it. So like right here feels a little weird. So let me check what she does. So we got that. This is definitely a little bit more deeper on there. And we can go over there. Make sure that the resolutions of your images are also not too bad. This is going a little bit more inwards because you can see it right here. And if you need to, I'm moving things, but you can also just take a clay buildup, which I do a lot of times, and I just scratch the surface to kind of get that volume off. Whichever makes you a little bit more comfortable and gets you to the result that you want. Sometimes I don't like it, I back out, I Z back, and I'm like, let me do it again. It's not things that are written, like I said, in stone. It's just you go over it, and even the nose right now, it's looking a little bit over here for me. And then that's going a little bit there. And then soften that a little bit. So also another tip, if you, this ties out with the Dynamesh question. How do you know if your Dynamesh is too high or too low? If you soften your mesh, let's say I soften this, and it doesn't soften because you have a lot of geometry there, that means your Dynamesh, it might be too high. You have to make sure you find a balance where you can hold the shape, and when you smooth it, you can actually smooth it, not be struggling smoothing it because it's super high and those polygons can't smooth out on the surface. So that's how you kind of know where to. I'm trying to like do BDS, which is Damon Standard. That's when you know when your Dynamesh is working for you, not working for you, etc. I am going to get the nose. There you go. A little bit more finer. Like I said, these are things that you want to do. Just a little bit more thinner, and I think a little bit more of a thinner nose. So that's how it goes. So we have another question. Is Redshift also a part of ZBrush, or is it separate program? So I believe since 2022 they included Redshift because Pixelogic got bought by Maxon. Don't quote me on that. I believe they did. They did added Redshift to that. So you can definitely check it. I think I was there last week. I went to the Maxon site, and I do believe I saw Redshift added to that. So the answer is yes, but do check on the site. So I'm gonna add a little bit of that. Just adjusting some of my shapes and see what I kind of want to round out. I don't want to jump too much really fast onto like I said, the clicker side without having some of my shapes already established that are really important. And I feel like the forehead's a little bit too much. I'm going to adjust the head shape way less, which it won't really matter because I'm gonna put the cordyceps mushroom kind of there, so we can adjust it later. So let's go and see what we can do with jumping towards doing the clicker side. I'm going to adjust some of the areas, like I said. I am going to make him feel a little bit more round. She seems like she's happy. I wanted to adjust the ears a little bit. She feels like she has more thinner, rounder ears, so I'm going to adjust that. Good thing of having a base mesh, you can just adjust it really quickly. You don't have to build upon anything. I do keep my ears separate. So, if you have any questions with that. So for example, let me adjust the side of the face a little bit there. When to keep your ears or any kind of attachments separate or together. It depends on, one, your concept, and also it depends on if you can hide it. So what I mean by that is, for example, for me it's easier to always have the ears separated. Why? Because I can move them if they don't look like I want them. I can be like, hey, maybe the ears go here, maybe they go over there. They don't have to be attached and I don't have to be masking things. But I only do separated ears when I cannot see the shape and seam line. So if I cannot see it because I'm putting some kind of object there, so let's say hair is covering the ear or any kind of object is covering the ear, then I would just keep it always separate. I will always keep it separate. It will save me time on UVing, retopologizing, etc., etc. But let's say that, for example, I have to attach the ears to my sculpt. That is fine. It's not an issue. It's just sometimes the topology of the ears, if not done correctly, will be transferred to the face, which is something that you don't want to do. You kind of want to keep the ears with their own radial, with their own topology. But for me, it just saves me time on that. So I don't have to connect anything, I don't have to keep it radial, it's just going to be its own thing. And I'm going to just adjust it really quickly. So let's just, an FYI on that. I'm going to keep it like that, adjusted, and just do a normal ear shape. I can always just push it a little bit more if you needed to, but that's fine. So from here, what I'm going to do is later on adjust the nose, because noses are always my pet peeve. I'm gonna round out the tip and then kind of just do the nostrils a little bit. Feels a little bit too big for me, so I'm just gonna slowly adjust the scale of it. And this is just me pushing and moving and seeing if I like it, seeing if I don't like it. Make sure you also have your reference here. Oh, it's a little bit more buttony. So that means it's a little bit more attached. There you go. This is gonna be a little bit more intense, and that's it. So for now, I'm gonna leave it here. I will probably adjust some things that I might want for it, that I notice right now that I need to adjust. But we will be going on how to approach the clicker side, or how I would approach it, to be honest. So, first things first, that I haven't done in the hour probably that we've been here, make sure you guys save. Make sure you save. Always save. So, I'm going to adjust this here. And go over here to the top right, save as. I already had clicker 1, but I'm going to put 2. Also make sure that you always save in increments. You don't want to overwrite things too frequently, just in case they get corrupted and then you keep overwriting corrupted things, or you just don't like something that you did and you overwrit the one that you liked. So just make sure to just save in increments. You know, I will adjust that nose later. There you go. So for now, it seems like it's going, the head might be a little bit too big on the back, and the neck too for the little kid. So adjust accordingly. But for now, it's looking young, right? It's not looking too adultish. So After you save, make sure you save your increment, right? Let me drink some water. This is when we're gonna jump to to the clicker side. So for the clicker side, we have some references over here. This is the main one that I kind of want to do. First things first, when you see your reference, when you want to add something, what is going on in the reference? We have a type of mushroom feel, and also, do you see that there's like slightly like a flower going on there compared to this one? So you see how this clicker has it kind of coming out from the middle out, and I noticed that on the little girl it is coming from the middle, but it also turns in slightly a flower shape, which I thought it was pretty cool. So I kind of wanted to do that. I was like, oh, that's awesome. So same thing we did with the ears, right? We have the ears, we have my bust, which I personally like to always duplicate it on the scene so I can see the changes that I do compared to the original one. So this one I always do the top one right here. I rename it and I put original on it. That's the one that took me 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever speed sculpt you do. I like to always have it on the top, and I turn it not visible right here in the little eye. The second one is going to be the one that I'm gonna keep. Let me push it over here. There you go. Boop, boop. Is the one that I'm gonna keep putting more information on, change that things that I don't like, add things that I like, etc., etc. So that's my personal organization on ZBrush. After that, I have any other subtool that you might want to. For this one, I have my ears, and then I have a mouth. So same thing that we did with the ears, you're gonna do with the teeth. You want to make sure you always know how to do teeth first, and then you can always eventually in the future have your own list or category or folder of brushes for any type of meshes. So I have a teeth one here, which is pretty neat. It will save me on time, and I can adjust it accordingly to whatever I'm doing. So if I shift F, I'm gonna see what I have here, and I have gums and teeth. We have different colors, that's great. Polygroups, so different polygroup colors. I am going to scale this way down, and I'm gonna put it approximately where I see the little girl kind of having that would be right around there. Yeah, that's fine. I didn't do the mouth, and I didn't do, I didn't continue the mouth. I put it where I would want to, because we're going to kind of destroy it and kind of get those teeth out. So I'm gonna put the teeth as close as I can there, and I'm gonna take a move tool, and I'm just gonna push it in slightly, because we will adjust the teeth to the angle. I want to make sure, and that's the tip that I had over here. Over here. So I want to make sure that I have certain elements that makes a clicker, and like we have here on our little list that I made here, split lip, mouth, or cleft lip. We want to kind of add that to the sense of that. So we have some references here. We also want a little bit more of the directionality if she was going to be moving her mouth and her whole face. We want to have some reference for that. Leathery skin, barely no eyesight, which means, like I said, the eyes didn't matter too much. We're gonna cover them. But I just wanted to go through the process of kind of how to do that for you guys. So that's why we have kids' teeth over here. So we want to have, I personally would like to see if I want to miss one tooth or what shape of the teeth I want, those baby teeth. So that's why I have that there, to kind of not have the whole adult mouth in it. Just apply some of the children baby teeth kind of feel to that. So that's why I have those in there. So I'm going to just start applying a little bit. And we're gonna get rid of some of them later. I will make sure that this is kept symmetrical. So let me see if I broke symmetry on it. I'm going to go down subdivisions. I'm gonna delete the subdivisions, actually I don't need them for now. And yeah, that is actually fine. That doesn't really matter if it breaks symmetry too much. If you ever break symmetry on your model, make sure you try not to. It's really difficult to break symmetry when you're trying. I mean, it's really difficult to get symmetry back when you're trying to still keep symmetry. So what I mean by that, if you break symmetry and you noticed, and then you're like, hey, either my brush is not working correctly or my mesh is not symmetrical, I'm trying to do something on one side and then the other side breaks, it's because probably your symmetry is a little funky. So if you want to always make sure that you adjust the symmetry or fix it in that way, you want to go to geometry, modify topology, and mirror and weld. That will most of the time fix it. But remember, if I go over here, I'm going to turn on the floor. You see, let me see if I can see, you see X, Y, and Z right here on these lines. The Y axis green. You want to make sure that when you trying to fix your symmetry, you're going to push your model to the whatever side, to be honest. I think it's left to right, I believe. Let me check. Yes, it mirrors the left side to the right side. So you want to make sure that you have your models as center as possible to mirror both sides, because if not, it's gonna cut a lot of the other side. Or add, because it also adds a little bit of extra. So you gotta be very almost there. There you go. You see how we don't have any issues when I put it there? Great. So mirror and weld, we don't have any extra or less geometry on it, so that's perfect. That's what we want. So that way your symmetry will be symmetrical. So from there, what we want to do is just push it in a little bit. I did notice that a lot of the gums of the clickers are kind of protruding out and barely any lip and a lot of inflation on it. So we're definitely going to do that. So from here, I am going to start. Oh, where did my teeth go? They're probably hidden. There you go. I'm going to start breaking the face, breaking the skin, applying the places that I kind of want to have the clicker to be, or be the clicker. There you go. Oh, we have a question. While I read, I'll drink some water. Do you have any tips when switching from Maya to something like Blender controls? So, you mean Maya to ZBrush, or do you mean actually Maya to Blender? Let me know, because if it's Maya to ZBrush, it's a little bit of a learning curve. It feels a little weird. I don't believe there is a way like in Blender that you can change which controls you have. So I know in Blender that you can change, like, hey, the Maya controls, you can use it in Blender. I don't believe ZBrush has that. That's why I have a lot of students that have difficulty in ZBrush, because of that differentiation of controls. But to be honest, I would say practice, because eventually in the industry you're gonna get a lot of software that you don't know about anything. So you want to, this is the first thing I do. I'm like, Google, and I'm like, okay, hotkeys for this program. So that way you can also learn the hotkeys while learning your controls. So both things you will eventually have to do in the industry. Learning any software, learning its ins and outs. Sometimes it's software that it's really old. So I would suggest try, instead of making it feel like something else, try and adjust yourself to it. Because that way you're like, hey, I know how to do Maya, I know how to do Blender, ZBrush, and it's just your brain automatically will switch when you go to those. Trust me, I've been there. So we're going to go to the reference for the clicker girl. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get that like cleft palette line here where I want to put it. I do notice it's slightly visible there. That she has it right, and I'm gonna hide the teeth for now. She has it right around here, and I'm gonna, for this, make sure this is gonna break symmetry. Before you break symmetry, make sure you save a file with symmetry in case you have to go back. Because like I said, breaking symmetry is always slightly issue in ZBrush if it's not on purpose. If you're trying to then symmetrize, have things symmetrical, it's gonna be a pain. So from there, what you wanna do is you want to start breaking the skin. I like to use Damien standard. You can do whatever you want. You can cut it, you can scratch on it with the clay buildup, your choice. I would just be like, hey, my mouth is gonna be open slightly, so actually I'm gonna do that in symmetry. That's gonna be my mouth. This is gonna be my hole, and there's a few ways to do this. You can scratch on it, be like, kind of like go over it like that. Doesn't have to be pretty, just a gaping hole there. We're gonna put a tongue there, and we're gonna put the teeth and everything else around it. I am not cutting it like this yet because I kind of want to keep the lip top line lip. There you go, top lip line. Got it. So I'm just gonna leave it there for now. I'm gonna smooth it out. You can go a little bit more deeper if you want to, and I would, but we can resolve that afterwards. If you get some stretching from your topology, just control, click and drag, redynamish that. So I'm going to show you how it looks. Looks like that. You click and drag and it will redynamish and get you some more polygons in there. So that way you can soften it, won't have any weird issues. And I'm going to, it's just my, there you go, that's better. It's just things that I noticed around the sculpt. I'm just like, okay, I need to fix that, I need to fix that. So it will happen. Anyways, so how to approach the mushroomy, flowery effect that they have. So these are things that I kind of asked myself. I was like, okay, how would I do this? And I found a few ways to kind of do it. Best way for me was this that I'm gonna explain right now. So we're gonna go here to subtool, right here on the right side. We're gonna be appending, and I'm gonna do a cylinder for this one. You can do whatever shape you want, but for this one, I'm gonna do a cylinder. I'm gonna hide everything else because this tends to be a little bit by itself. I'm going to scale this like that. I would say scale it where you still have some thicker space. You don't want to have a very, very thin, I mean you can, but these tend to be a little bit thicker. So, I have a new question, sorry. So do you have presets that you maybe can share or sell, ears, nose, etc., or is there a certain place, website where we can find them to use? Basically, how can we find those assets without creating them ourselves? So I've been doing this for a while. I would suggest there's a few sites. There's like sites in ZBrush, I believe. ZBrush has a few things. There's one called ZBrush. I personally, if I need something, I would just Google it. I just Google ear 3D ZBrush, and I always add ZBrush there. So if you need something like that, I would just Google it, and then there will be, trust me, there will be different sites on it. There's some that you have to pay, there's some that are free. Make sure that you always have representation for the artist too. You know, you want to make sure you be like, okay, ears by this person, etc. It is just very nice. So there's different licenses too on those, so just make sure you kind of check overall in Google That's the best one that I can give you. But there's a few good ones in Cube Brush. There you go. Or like I said, you can always do one really good one and then just keep using them for the rest of your life, and that will also be good. So whichever is easier for you, or I would say whichever is good for you, because remember that you want to practice things too before using base meshes. So from right now they're asking so Maya to Blender. Oh, okay, so for the question of the controls for Maya and Blender specifically. Oh, that's perfect. So I know that Blender, you might have to also search this, but I know Blender has, I don't believe it's maybe a script. I think it's a script, or it's a configuration on the settings of Blender. I did Blender a while ago, so I had to do it. And just go either search it on the page of Blender or just Google overall. And Blender has a setting that you can get the controls of Maya. So everything in Maya, or everything in Blender, sorry, will be and feel as you were in Maya. So I would say search that up, but I definitely know that in Blender you do have that. I had to do that once. So for the mushroomy, flowery part of the face, what I like to do is I like to do this. I get a cylinder like we were. I am going to hit Control Shift, and you have a couple of things you can do. You can cut it, or you can hide it, or whatever is easier for you. I'm actually going to trim it. So I'm going to go here to the trim tools, and I'm going to use trim curve. That's fine. Let's use trim curve. I gotta move this again. Boop. So what trim curve does is you're gonna hit Control Shift and you're gonna do a line first. So you see that part of the line on the right side that it's grayed out? That's what's gonna cut. So whatever's under or to the side of that line, or that gray part, that's what's gonna cut off. I like always, I'm a righty, I like always working on the right side of space, if that makes sense. So I like to do Control Shift, and I'm gonna do the left side. So I'm gonna cut it out. So that way I just work on the right side. But you do which one is easier for you. From here, I like to do a few things. You can either mold this, like I'm about to do now. But before I do that, I make sure that I go and turn on Dynamesh. So geometry, Dynamesh. I'm gonna hit it and see how it's looking. I'm gonna smooth it out. 128 is fine for me for now. And that's it. I do see that it's not 100% flattened. So that's interesting. Nope. This side. It should do a straight line. Cool. Now it's a straight line. It was bothering me. So from there, what you want to do, take a move tool, BMV hotkey in the keyboard. And what you want to do is get a better reference. I like these ones a lot. These ones right here that are being created for the show you a little bit more of the thickness of them. So I definitely got this, and it varies. You see how it goes really thin, then thick, then kind of bubbly, then thin again. So you kind of want to add that later. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the overall shape of the one that I want to do, which is the flower. I'm going to take a move tool, and I'm just going to make sure, and I would suggest you do, I would just make sure you turn on Dynamesh, and I would mask the center line. It's just I don't want it to move when I'm doing it. I want it to keep it, for now, centered, and then later on I can just adjust it. That way I can scale like that and it's not gonna move. So I am going to slightly scale, And I am going to slightly move this around to whatever shape you want. You know, I would say keep it consistent with the shapes that you see. Very round, very bubbly. Not straight lines at all. So you want to kind of keep it that way. Maybe another one. And this is just going to be the first one. You can do a couple of them. I would say maybe like 3 or 4. And then adjust those. I like to do one that's really, really basic. Duplicate it around a few times and then adjust those. That way I can see the overall shape, the overall population, how it's looking. If I don't like it, I just delete it and do another one. So I'm just going to slightly do that. Then from here, I'm going to unmask, and it's still flat. That's great. I'm going to add a little bit more thickness. I feel like it's too thin. If I need it to be thinner, I can just adjust it myself with the smoothing. I'm going to bring everything back, which is going to be my second one, and my ears, and you know what, everything else. If I do the little locator here, it will relocate the pivot to the current mesh. From here, I am going to start placing it. I'm going to scale it around, move it around, and actually before I do that, I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to keep an original one. It's just, you know, to save it up, just in case I don't like this one and I want to go back to the original one. I just have a copy already there. So if I change too much of the shape and I don't like it, I already have the copy there. So that's just how my brain works. So from here, I'm going to start applying this. I would always recommend in anything that you do, start from big shapes to smaller shapes. You don't want to start from little tiny things and then trying to do big things. And I see that happening a lot with hair strands. You want to shape the hair first and then you want to do the tiny strands later on. Why? Because it will give you the basic shapes, it will give you the volume, it would give you the overall feel. If you start with little tiny ones, you might have a lot of them by the end. It might be a little bit too much on the scene. Extra issues. So always start from big shapes and then go to small shapes. So I am going to follow that direction and I'm going to start with the overall flower shape. And this is going to be interesting. I can just move it around. I'm going to put the base. So for example, we could be here, right? Let's say we could be here. I am going to adjust the line, the center line, because it feels too wide. It doesn't need to be any wider. And why do I not do this in sections, section and section? Why? Because I can actually create the sections and be one piece. You can do it however is easier for you. But for me, it's like, okay, so if this is 2 sections or 3 sections, I can just separate it by doing that. And when I go to retopo, I have less sections to retopo. It's just gonna be one piece. You can always, if you have a lot of pieces, consolidate into one piece. That's also good. But it's just easier for me in my brain. Okay, if I need to retopo this later, it's just one whole piece that I'm just gonna retopo over instead of different pieces. So from here, I'm gonna start very basic. Remember, this is still basic block out. We're gonna still start playing all that. So I am definitely gonna cover the mouth, slightly mouth, and definitely a nose. And this is when you can take a Damien standard. And I would suggest before you do that, we're going to go to brush right here on the top left. We're going to scroll the way down over, auto masking. And we're going to go right here, back face mask. What that does is what it definitely says. You want to mask the back. So when or if you are in ZBrush and you're adding any type of clay and you're seeing that the back of your mesh is just breaking, just having like craziness in there, that's because that specific button is not on. What that will do, it will mask, technically it will mask the back. So everything that you're seeing right now in the view, it's what's going to affect nothing in the back. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Damien Standard, and I'm going to see where I'm at. Right now I would be around here, and it's going to be probably the first one, but I'm going to take the overall feel of it and kind of apply to it. So what I mean by that is we need a little bit more of concave shape. We need a little bit more round edge, inflated mostly, and we need some shaping to that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Damien Standard, and I'm going to define an edge. And this doesn't have to be perfect at all. It's just I'm going to define the edge of it. We can just go over it with an inflate later on, and that way it's going to give you that inflation feel. So from here I am going to go in, I'm going to scratch in. You can do BCB, or you can do BDS, which is Damien Standard, or we can do also inflate on the inside, or clay buildup, whichever brush it's easier for you and you feel comfortable with. So I'm going to take a clay buildup, and because I turned on, I think I turned the back face masking only on the Damien Standard. That's also per brush, so if you're using different brushes, you have to turn it on those different brushes. So from there, I'm going to just, you see how it keeps flat? That's what we need. So I'm going to go in a little bit, and I'm not going to go any specific way. I mean, I would say, yeah, don't go like crazy like that. Try to keep it following the shape that you want to do. So yes, it definitely is a specific way. So you go in like outward direction, think of flowers, think of just everything just outwards. So it's gonna be me changing in between Damien Standard and clay buildup. We will use inflate later on, but it's not necessary for now. It's just very basic shaping that we want. Very, very basic. I'm going over the shape again to kind of give it a little bit more thickness on this side, on this view. And like I said, very, very, very... This is going to be the first one, so it doesn't really matter if it's too in the face. It's going to be covered by the other ones. Make sure you shape it. Make sure you... I'm going to smooth that out a little bit. We're just trying to get the overall shape form. I am going to start adding the palette line that I want that she has, which is going to be a big gap, and it's going to mostly cross all over this. Let me do a clay buildup and see if that works better. Oh yeah, that's better. I want to keep a little bit of the nose in there, so I'm not just destroying the whole nose. And maybe I will eventually just slightly hide it somewhere, but we'll see how that turns out. Because I've seen a couple of references that they still have certain parts, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's awesome. So I can actually keep that. So from here, I'm going to start moving the mouth shape, because I feel like this might be going a little bit up. Still keeping the shaping of it. This one, this is when I'm gonna actually adjust the teeth a little bit. I'm gonna make sure that my gums have a little bit more space and they feel more out, not so flattened. And I'm just gonna adjust that. And maybe I'll do a BIN, which is the inflate brush hotkey, and I'll just inflate it slightly. Okay. If you do BMT, which is move topological, What that does, you can move polygroups, which is these colors, by themselves instead of affecting anything else. If you do the whole move thing, it will just move the whole thing. So just FYI on that differentiation there for those. I feel like she has a lot of teeth, so like I said before, we're gonna take those out. I am going to go over here. I'm gonna press Control Shift. I'm gonna do Select Lasso, and I'm just gonna start. Actually, no, before I do that, I might need to turn all of these into separate polygroups. So I'm gonna go to the polygroup section, auto group, select which ones I want. I see she has like 2 on this side, maybe 2 on the other side. I will just take this one out, hide that one. I'm gonna keep these 2 here and kind of break that one. Yep, that's fine. Kind of something that doesn't feel too complete. They're hidden right now, so I have my really neat button over here. If you want to look for this one, it's going to be under Modify Topology, Delete Hidden, but I have it here because I use it a lot. I hide things and I move things a lot, so I delete that. So from here, I'm going to start moving some teeth. They don't have to be perfect. I don't want them to be perfect. I'm gonna get a lot of gaps in there. I feel like I need a lot of gaps on it. Maybe, ooh, that's too much. Maybe they're a little bit too long, so I'm gonna make some shorter. Make sure that the gums at the bottom are also a little bit more protruded. So this is all really fast. Like I said, don't commit to anything too fast. I want it to look creepy, baby teethy, and to make him a little bit baby teethy, we're gonna have to give him a little bit more resolution. This is too low for it, but we can play around with it. So from there, I'm going to adjust the inflation on this because I don't feel like it's not too inflated there. We can add some lines if you want. You see these lines right here that are going in. We can definitely do that. I would leave that for a little bit more later because we're trying to build the block out. So I would just keep it here, and then from here I would definitely Dynamesh. Make sure my mesh is not breaking, which is, oh, that's the last thing that I did. Yep, there you go. I did an inflate, and because the inflate brush didn't have the back face mask, that's why it's doing that. That's why it gave me that weirdness on it. But it's fine, there you go. So, from here, you want to then adjust it a little bit better. Maybe give it a little bit of bends on the side. I wouldn't go too far for it because, like I said, we're going to hit W. I'm going to relocate that, and I'm going to start the putting up everything. So I'm going to definitely just keep doing this over and over again. Doesn't need to be perfect, just placement, shape. And this is the first, you see how it's starting to look like a little flower coming out? First one, kind of just, and then, and this is me just taking the original one, hitting W and hitting Control, and that will just duplicate the one, the subtool that you have currently on, and then just duplicating it around. I am gonna shape it. I am going to probably not do it so low, so I'm covering right now the mouth. There you go. So maybe I have to adjust this one. I am going to make sure the mask is off, and I don't want them to Dynamesh together. So I have a few options for that. I'm going to turn it into polygroups. I'm going to auto groups right here under polygroups, and I can separate them if you don't want them to Dynamesh together. Right now I don't want them to Dynamesh together. I'm just gonna start placing the shapes, giving them a little bit bent, making them feel how I have them in my mind, which is a flower. And making sure that I don't go over the boundaries that I have. Do you see how I have the first one right here? It's almost very, very close to that gap. So that means that this one right here needs to be moved all the way over here. And I'm just moving it. Like, there's no perfect shape for it. So from here, I gotta start putting that. And don't worry about these edges, because remember, we're gonna put more. We're gonna duplicate this, maybe rotate it around and put more flowers into it. Or not flowers, the mushroom actually, but you know what I mean, like slightly petals. That's what I'm seeing right now. So from here, boop, make sure this shapes. I will probably just merge the eyes with these shapes again. And you know what, if it's easier for you, because we already did a duplicate, if you're not starting to see the shapes, do this. Take an inflate and just go in. It's gonna look like that, but you're gonna start seeing the shapes a little bit better. So from here, I'm just going to place. Play with the placement. You can go a little bit more into detail if you want to for them. I would say go and take geometry, Dynamesh, higher resolution on this. Like I said, I don't want them to be together. If I do Dynamesh right now, you see how that goes? We have some holes over here. But we're gonna do this. We're gonna do subtool split, group split. So that means everything that's one polygroup, it will split by itself. So that way we have different polygroups. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this a little bit more deeper. Like, it doesn't really matter the destruction of that. And I'm going to start, now that I have the overall, that's when I'm going to start to render more of these things, because maybe you don't want them to feel the same, or maybe you want them to have other shapes. So that's when I'm like, okay, maybe this right here, we are on this one, really big one. So this one is a little bit more round and a little bit more inflated. I'm gonna make sure I always go to the back and check that that is inflated. Give it some love in the back too. Whoop, kind of just went and touched that, yep. But you see how it starts feeling very cordyceps-y, I guess. I will Dynamesh. You see how I have holes? That's my fault again, because I did not make sure that my back face mask was on. If you do anything on your mesh and your back face mask is not on, and you Dynamesh and you have holes, you have to make sure you turn it on first. Boop, right? And you're going to, I changed brush, so I'm gonna make sure I turn it on first there. Yep. So you're going to go over it like that. You're just gonna add some geometry on top of it, and then you're gonna, oh, I keep hitting that. There you go. And you're gonna Dynamesh again. You see how it closed the holes? Smooth it out. That's it. That's the best fix I've had for that. So a lot of this is happening, and this is gonna be, trust me, this is gonna be the most time that you will spend on all this process. It's just trying to make these look really, really good. Yeah, cool. Got it. So what we want to do is, I like to do it different ways. I either go to each one and kind of just render them by each petal or each piece, or I do again the same process. I do this one really good, and then I manage to put it back again, and now will be on top. you know, it could be on top of the other ones and you can get rid of the other ones. The other ones were part of them being placed there to get me a block out, to get me how it's looking. If I don't like these kind of looking like that, I will start putting more on top. So for example, I will start getting this one, and I would do it a little bit more later when I have it a little bit more render. Kind of adjust it like that. Take a move tool, move a piece, start putting it on top. You don't want it to be, and remember, big to small. So we're starting maybe a medium size here, and then kind of just place it there. And maybe I don't like that shape for it, so I'm just gonna, and it doesn't have to be a big change or anything. It's just make sure that it doesn't look too repeated. That's the rule of thumb. But you see how this part compared to this is starting to kind of pull in together? That's gonna be the whole process for this. Rendering it, pushing it around, putting more information on it. And I would say I would put a few lines in here that you can definitely do. I would keep them a little bit cleaner. But for this, I would say maybe a little bit more resolution so you don't get these really, really low res areas. But like anything that you will do, you will start primary, secondary, and tertiary shapes. This here, I would still say it's in between primary and secondary. So tertiary shapes, which is anything that's going to be really detailed, later on. So I'm going to put that there. So I would get this one really, really well looking, and then I would start putting everything else. You see, cool. So if there's any more questions, let me know. If you not see what I see, also let me know. This is just the way that I would kind of approach sculpting this, and make sure that it doesn't feel flat from the side, right? This has to feel like it encapsulated the whole model. So that's gonna be a lot of, I would say maybe another set of them kind of applied to her really much, or to the surface a little bit. But for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna block everything out, leave it blocked, and then continue later on if we are missing some time here. So I am going to Shift F, make sure this is always on polygroups that are needed for me. There you go. I am going to Control Shift, click on the orange one, and I'm gonna split, which I have it over here on the top. So from there, like I said, I would have this a little bit more rendered, but let's do this. Let's do the same thing we did. And I would definitely be looking at this if it helps you put the image that you have in. If you have a lot of things in your reference, for example, hair strands or scales or any kind of thing that's too much and you're kind of lost in how to approach things, what I like to do is I put them in Photoshop, right? I color code them. So if I have different things and shapes like this, I'm like, okay, shape 1, this is the shape that I have. Now I know there's only one there and it's not like 3, because I've seen a lot of students do like extra objects and pieces of things when it's like only 1 or 2 in the scene. So just make sure you check how many spaces and how many objects you have overlapping or things like that. So from here I would start placing it, and maybe if you want, to be honest, if you want to go here, trim curve, which is my favorite one, and just trim pieces, soften them, and then start putting them. You can definitely do that. It doesn't have to be one piece. Maybe you see the pieces coming out together a little bit better by trimming them, you know. Maybe you don't want them to complete themselves. It's definitely okay to do that. But like I said, I personally like to just keep the shape and shape it. So I'm gonna just start putting them, and there's other ways to do this. You can definitely just create one and create a brush for it and just click and drag on the piece that you want. So there's different ways to approach that. So she has this bigger one here, which is gonna be this one in my scene right here. There you go. I want to make sure that I don't cover the mouth, which is, I'm still covering the mouth. So we're going to cut this off in that direction of the mouth. And we're gonna make this a little bit smaller so it doesn't cover the whole thing. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as you're getting the shape that you want. What I like to do is just go here to best possible render and start seeing how the light is affecting each thing. Still some things to adjust, still some things to render, but the overall shape, it's starting to get there. And remember that if you do any kind of sculpting and you're not happy with how it's going, it's okay to start over again. It's like, okay. Take that time to just be like, okay, I learned this, I like how it's going or I don't like how it's going, and adjust. For this, I am going to push the whole face to, actually no. I'm going to take a move tool, a big move tool, and I'm just gonna push this down a little bit. I am going to get the lower bottom of the teeth selected. I'm going to get the select lasso, and I'm going to select the teeth that I want to kind of move with that, because I feel like it's too close, like it's like very close, the mouth. So I'm gonna adjust that. And I jump from one place to the other. We were doing the front part and now I'm doing the teeth. Just jumping around to kind of making everything feel cohesive and worked on, not just, you know, let some things go. There you go. You see how that's better? It feels way like open and like creepier. So I would do a little bit more, but that's good for now. Cancel. That's fine. Let's see where the other teeth are. Oops, we're gonna have to adjust those too because I pulled the mouth down, and maybe I will just get rid of the upper lip for now and then create it later. But you see how we destroy what we did? And that's fine. We're just going over how to do things. So I'm gonna put that in there. I'm gonna slightly rotate it, and I want to make it feel, ooh, that's nice. This one is bothering me right here. I feel like, yeah, maybe. I'm going to go a little bit more thinner on the lip side. Still keeping the edge. I'm gonna mark the bottom of the lip and then just leave it there for now. We will add a tongue. So for a tongue, very easy, right? We're going to go and append. Oop. I'm going to take a sphere. I am going to make this a little bit longer, make it a little bit, yeah, that's fine. Thinner, not so thick. I'm going to take the trim curve that I like so much. Click and drag. Oh, if you hold Control Shift, hold it down, that's fine. A little bit too intense, right? So we're gonna scale it down, push it in there, and go over that. Kind of just don't place it super straight, right? Kind of just angle it slightly. I would like to keep it a little bit used. So what I mean by that is like she's actually having force on it. She's using it to like almost eat you. So I feel like a little slight bend would be good. Oh, that's fine. So from here, that's gonna be the gist. The gist is gonna be just placing these the correct way, placing them a better way of it, moving them around. You can always dynamesh them if you want them to be a little bit more combined. That's fine. That means that if you dynamesh them, when you go to retopo, you can always do it as one shell, as one whole thing. That's also another way to do it. I think this might be a little bit too straight from the side. If there's any gaps, I would just move the shapes around. I feel like it's too straight ahead. So what I might do is I might just take it, the overall shape, and just slightly pump it to the side. But that's gonna be way after I kind of create my overall shapes. I'm gonna split him. There you go. And they don't have to be in order or anything. It's just you getting the shape that you want. I feel like there's some that are kind of coming out towards me, so that's gonna be a lot of me kind of moving these around and just doing this, and that's what's gonna start getting you that flower feel. But again, you don't want to jump too fast. You want to make sure you have the overall and then adjust. But this, definitely I like how that's going. It's gonna be somewhere around like here. This one right here would be something that I would be like, yep, that's this one. Move the angle. And because yes, they are created from one specific one. Like I said, you don't have to have one specific one. You can always do 2 or 3 variations. But it doesn't feel too, maybe this one right here feels a little bit repetitive. It doesn't feel as repetitive because I take the time to kind of go afterwards and move them. But that's definitely the fun in it. This one, I will do the same thing that I did to this one, which is going to be adjusting the thickness. It feels too thin. You can also always try, instead of doing the inflation by itself, you can go to deformation. We have right here polish. You can use polish. You can use any type of these on the list. I like to do inflate balloon or the actual inflate. Also do that. It looks a little crunchy here, but remember, we dynamesh, we smooth, and then we have it. So that's if you want an overall inflate. Definitely you can use it. If you want to work where you have something inflated and kind of take it out instead of adding it like I was doing it with these, you can also do it. So you can take this, kind of just take out the shapes that you need, kind of take it in, leave the edge slightly inflated, smooth it out, add some more details. There you go. So it's many ways to do it. Just choose which one is easiest and fastest for you. So I don't like actually that one there, so I'm just gonna either push it in, dynamesh it later, don't worry about it. So we have another question, and oh, it's almost time to head out too. Wow, that came out so fast. You get entertained with things and time just passes by. So question. So I'm in the game design program and considering doing game art after I graduate. Oh, that's awesome. I'd like to know a brief overview of the program from a course director's perspective. Oh, that's awesome. So yes, I'm associate course director, but also I was a student here. So many moons ago, I went through the program. I can't say anything about the game design because I haven't taken game design yet. But the game art is really, really nice. Depends on what you're going for, right? We have great instructors for everything, to be honest. We have a great department. So what specific question in the sense of game art though? Are you going for environments? Are you going for characters? You will get a little bit of everything, and you will also get, depending on what you choose, you will do your portfolio on that. Does that make sense? I hope that works out. If you want to see any type of classes that you might have for the game art program, you can always go to the game art section at Full Sail University website. And they have a great selection there of the different programs and their descriptions and everything regarding to each program. But that's awesome that you're trying to do both. Like, that's amazing. So congrats on that. That's like, whew, that's good. You're gonna have a lot of knowledge and information, and you can do a lot of things with that too. So that's awesome. Go for it, and I wish you the best on that. So, boom. There's certain things here that I don't like. I'm gonna inflate. The good thing about placing them on top of each other, it's that you can also hide things. So I don't like that piece that was protruding through everything. Inflate it down. We don't see it anymore, and you still get that nice what's the word? I'm looking for the word. On top of each other feel. I missed the word. So boom. I'm going to place that one there. I'm going to make sure that... Oh, we have one last question before I start heading out. I am going to save. Guys, you guys don't remind me to save. Make sure you guys save on everything. So I'm going to keep it as 3, and I'm going to just keep it at 3. There you go. I will definitely finish this, give you guys an overview of what I do after this point that you're watching it live, because I feel like I need to adjust some things and make different things, and so I will definitely record this. I know the social team will post it, so you guys can definitely head out to any of the TikToks, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram Full Sail, and they will have that in there after I finish it. So, question, and the last question for today. If you guys have any questions, make sure to send them in now. We're about to head out at 3. So, can all sculpted models created in ZBrush be brought over into Maya for rigging? Yes. I mean, you can take anything to Maya for rigging that it is sculpted in ZBrush. Yes. But the caveat here is you gotta make sure that you have the correct topology in your model for the rigging. Proper deformations of areas that when you start rigging will deform correctly. You want to make sure that your model is also not 50 million polys, right? You want to make sure that your model is clean topology, clean retopology, have their correct deformations. That will work. So yes, you can technically, bring everything from ZBrush to Maya. Just make sure that you have the correct cleanliness and accommodation and everything nice and clean on the model to then bring into Maya for rigging. Yes. I hope that answers your question. Drink some water. So yeah, if any other questions, let me know. I will turn off the floor here, leave it right there. It's getting there. I feel like I like actually this inflated version a little bit more. Might actually adjust that. I hope you guys enjoy all the tips. If you need anything, let me know. I'm always here to help in anything that I can. So thank you for tuning in today. I'm glad to have you guys here and asking these amazing questions. These are great. Yes, I'm excited for the iPad on ZBrush on iPad, so woo! These is one of the events that Full Sail has provided, and they have many others during this Halloween for online and campus for the spooky season. So I hope you guys check those out. The theme here for, like I mentioned before, for everything happening is The Last of Us. So it's very exciting. Also, FYI, we have a couple of alumni that did work on the game and the series. So congrats on that. Super amazing work. Clap. We do invite students and staff to join us on Tuesday, October 31st in the Full Sail Live venue for a journey outside the quarantine zone. Awesome. That includes a mesmerizing costume contest and clicker-filled photo zones. Oh, it's gonna be creepy. We hope to see you all there. And if you see me and you know who I am, be like, hey, and I'm gonna be like, hey. So definitely say hi. And if any questions, I'm here to help. And I hope you guys pass a great spooky season. I hope you guys don't miss all the cool stuff that Full Sail has for you online and campus. And you guys have a great day and a great Halloween. Have a good day. Bye.